Is this the end of Japan's pacifist military? After 76 years, Japan has an aircraft carrier again. Barred from having offensive military capabilities, the Japanese Navy is getting help from the same country that sank most of its fleet during the Second World War. A US F-35 fighter jet landed on a Japanese aircraft carrier last month, the first time one of its warships had done so since 1945. The country is also set to operate at least 2 carriers by 2030, all with American help. The Izumo and her sister ship, Kaga, were initially helicopter destroyers. In 2018, Tokyo approved plans to convert both ships to aircraft carriers.
Japan is looking at converting existing Izumo-class helicopter destroyers to carry the stealthy F-35, and South Korea is aiming to build a light carrier class to be able to field the new stealth fighter they've also acquired from the United States. India is producing its own new carrier, and the UK has 2 new carriers nearing operational status. Spain, France, and Italy have produced or are in the process of designing, building, or fielding new carriers or amphibious assault ships with an emphasis on airborne capability.
Japan is not new to maritime warfare. In 1941, they had one of the strongest navies in the world. Just before attacking Pearl Harbor, which brought America into the Second World War, the Japanese Navy had 10 carriers. That attack killed over 2,403 US personnel, damaged 19 naval vessels, including 8 battleships.
On December 7, 1941, Japan, like its infamous Axis partners, struck first and declared war afterwards. Costly to our Navy was the loss of war vessels, airplanes, and equipment, but more costly to Japan was the effectiveness of its foul attack in immediately unifying America in its determination to fight and win the war thrust upon it.
But Japan's naval dominance was short-lived as America's Pacific Fleet destroyed most of its ships. The atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki would go on to end the Pacific War in America's terms. As part of their surrender, Japan agreed to adopt a pacifist constitution which barred them from using war as a means to settle disputes.
World War II in the Pacific, 4 years of bloody hell, came to an end here. September 2nd, 1945, a solemn ceremony on the deck of the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. A mighty warship and a peace to celebrate.
Once arch enemies, Japan and the US are now among the closest allies. Tokyo is also trying to amend its constitution in order to have offensive military capabilities in a clear indication of countering China. Today, China wields the largest naval force in the world, consisting of 2 aircraft carriers, with a 3rd high-tech carrier set to launch in early 2022, dozens of destroyers, nearly 90 missile-ready coastal patrol ships, and some 56 submarines, including 6 nuclear-powered ones and 4 ballistic missile submarines. The United States Office of Naval Intelligence has confirmed that the People's Liberation Army Navy has surpassed the US in total battleships, approximately 360 to 297, with future projections expecting the gap to grow. The naval buildup comes as a series of maritime disputes between Beijing and Tokyo remain unresolved. 2 islands near Taiwan have been claimed by Japan since the 19th century and are now contested by China. And tensions in the South China Sea have been brewing for years. Beijing claims nearly the entire body of water, where some $3.4 trillion in annual trade moves through. And China has been accused of creating artificial islands and militarizing them to validate their claims.
I think we're getting to a point now where confrontation is more likely.
Recent tensions have threatened to boil over.
It used to be in the old days that the Americans were clearly the superpower. They could sail where they wanted and nobody else could do anything about it. Whereas now I think the Chinese are starting to think that maybe they have the military power, the weapons that could actually threaten the Americans.
China's naval strategy seems to be focused on neutralizing enemy aircraft carriers. In its far western desert region, satellite images show China has built mock-ups in the shape of US aircraft carriers, apparently for target practice.
Lauren, we should be worried for two reasons. One, it's clear that the Chinese are rebuilding their military capability. They're building new nuclear weapons. They just tested hypersonic weapons. As we can see from the pictures that you're just showing now, they've got mock-up in the desert of American aircraft carriers, and they're practicing how they're going to destroy American aircraft carriers in the South China Sea.
Japan was once a naval superpower, and historically has fought both China and the US. But now, the alliances have shifted, with Japan teaming up with its old nemesis to counter its old Asian rival. How this will play out is still anyone's guess.